Human societies have been building, organizing, and collapsing for millennia. Yet the formal academic discipline dedicated to understanding these exact structures is, historically speaking, still in its infancy. There is a sharp distinction between casual social thought and the existence of an autonomous, formalized science of society. Long before sociology had a name, early Greek philosophers established a crucial baseline for mapping the mechanics of civilization. Aristotle provided a rigorous, systematic study of socio-political systems in his text Politics. Parallel efforts existed across the ancient world. During the classical Indian age, Kautilya's Arthashastra provided a similarly detailed examination of political and social administration. We do not classify these historical texts as formal sociology. They offered profound observations, but they lacked an independent methodology designed to test those observations empirically. The human drive to understand society is ancient. What is entirely modern is the epistemological shift, the demand to study human behavior not merely through philosophical logic, but through the strict lens of an empirical science. A new academic field requires a precise convergence of existing ideas to force its creation. In 1947, sociologist M. Ginsberg mapped exactly how this happened, identifying a fourfold origin that provided the raw material for the discipline. This diagram illustrates four historical streams: political philosophy, philosophy of history, biological theories of evolution, and movements for social reform. These reform movements demanded precise data. They undertook massive surveys of social conditions, creating a completely new dataset requiring interpretation between 1750 and 1850. The intellectual pressure from these merging fields reached a breaking point in 1838, when the French thinker Auguste Comte officially coined the term sociology. The discipline's birth was a necessary structural response. The complex, rapidly industrializing problems of the 19th century had outgrown the descriptive limits of older philosophies, demanding a tool built specifically to measure them. Defining a word is entirely different from defining a science. Establishing this new autonomous discipline meant locking down its exact characteristics and academic boundaries. The first boundary was its scope. Sociology established itself as encyclopedic in nature, attempting an all-inclusive synthesis of the entire history of human social life. Second, it is evolutionary, borrowing from biology to map human socialization. Third, as a positive science, it borrowed methodologies from physics, prioritizing empirical data. Fourth, it studies particularities, focusing on localized 18th century problems. Finally, it maintains a dual character, housing both conservative and radical traditions. The unique strength of early sociology is also its central academic tension. It continuously attempts to use the cold, rigid logic of natural science to measure deeply emotional, ideological human conflicts. An autonomous discipline proves its legitimacy by surviving serious internal theoretical conflict. The year 1848 presented a major divergence from the original frameworks proposed by Comte. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels co-authored the Communist Manifesto, introducing a radically different theory of society. This new model analyzed the structural mechanisms of class and economics, directly challenging previous conservative viewpoints regarding social order. At the same time, the field had to prove it could cross cultural and linguistic borders. In 1853, Harriet Martineau became the first to translate Comte's foundational writings from French to English, exposing these theories to a vast new network of scholars. The conflicting frameworks between thinkers like Comte and Marx did not weaken the discipline. This exact ideological friction forced sociology to sharpen its arguments and tighten its scientific methodologies. Philosophical legitimacy requires physical, academic institutionalization to survive. The ideas needed brick-and-mortar departments. In 1885, Emile Durkheim legitimized the field by establishing the first European Department of Sociology at the University of Bordeaux. Institutional expansion continued into Germany, when Max Weber established a sociology department at the Ludwig Maximilians University of Munich in 1919. This structural process extended far beyond Europe. The formal academic beginning of sociology in India took place in 1917 at Calcutta University. A major milestone of this global adoption arrived in 1942, with the publication of the rigorous Indian sociological study, Marriage and Family in Mysore. The physical structural spread of these university departments across multiple continents cemented sociology as a universal scientific standard rather than a localized regional philosophy. By the 1930s, the field crossed a critical threshold. Supported by an expanding network of academic journals, sociology effectively abandoned impressionistic observation in favor of a rigid body of scientific knowledge driven by documented research. The immense structural devastation of the Second World War forced a global societal reset, demanding that the discipline find entirely new directions to measure a fractured world. In the subsequent decades, new frameworks emerged. Thinkers like C.W. Mills guided the field forward with works such as White Collar in 1951 and The Power Elite in 1956. Mills applied sociological rigor to the changing nature of the modern workforce, examining the increasingly bureaucratic corporate environments that now dictated daily human behavior. Today, the discipline incorporates a deep focus on historical and social anthropological studies, heavily influenced by the rapid development of third world countries and their corresponding structural challenges. Sociology will likely remain in its academic infancy for the foreseeable future. This is not due to a lack of empirical rigor, but because its core subject matter, human society, is perpetually evolving. The discipline must constantly recalibrate its scientific lens just to keep up.